Want entertainment designed just for you? Then check out customizable streaming TV from Xfinity. It makes your life simple, easy, awesome.
Xfinity gives you customizable streaming TV options. Enjoy the most free shows anywhere on any device, and even access your streaming apps right on your TV with X1. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today to learn more. Restrictions apply.
He also said that every generation needs a revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that. Just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war. And this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio! The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Stargate to the Cosmos. And I am your host, Janet Kara Lessin, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin and Kevin Estrella. Our producer for today's show is Thomas Becker, and this is Revolution Radio. And our guest today is Betsey Lewis. And I'm going to read a little bit about what Betsey said in her newsletter and the description of her new book, called Deja-vu, because this topic is very important. Deja-vu, the past lives of famous people. So she writes, in his book, Many Lives, Many Masters, a group of highly evolved souls calling themselves the Masters first contacted Dr. Brian Weiss through his patient Catherine. They spoke of past lives. They said, we choose we choose when we will come into our physical state and when we will leave. We know we have accomplished what we were sent down here to accomplish. We know when the time is up. And you will accept your death, for you know that you can get nothing more out of this life. When you have time, when you've had time to rest and re-energize your soul, you are allowed to choose your re-entry back into the physical state. Those people who hesitate, who are not sure of their return here, they might lose their chance that was given them, a chance to fulfill what they must when they're in the physical state. So Betsey Lewis, our guest, says, I have reread these words by the Masters many times and thought about the current state of our world. The vibrational energy of our planet is growing lower and lower, and if we continue to destroy our fragile planet by destroying forests, and our oxygen sources, polluting our water and oceans, and destroying plants and animals to near extinction, how will the new souls be able to survive and evolve spiritually in such a world? And consider this, if and when you reincarnate again, you will be one of those children. So she talks about, as reincarnated Atlanteans who lived here thousands of years ago, we had advanced technology, but we also had greed and materialism, just like we do today. And we have returned now to clear the karma of Atlantis. You see, there are other types of karma, countries, cities, and continents. We now have a comfortable, spoiled existence, and it's easy to sit back and do nothing and think others will make the changes for us. But we can't. The clock is ticking, And even if some of the earth changes are part of a natural cycle, we still have to make an effort to undo the harm we have caused Earth, or we will not have the physical bodies to be reborn in. And it's true, we can still grow on the spiritual side once we've died, but the greater growth is in this physical body. So speak up and let your voices be heard by writing to Congress, your leaders, even President Trump, and urge him to start honoring the Earth and cleaning up the mess. It's not too late and we can make a difference. About the book Deja-vu. Do you recall walking along the ancient golden sands of some forgotten time? This eerie feeling is known as deja-vu, defined as a current situation experienced that feels like it has already been experienced in the past. Deja-vu is the instant feeling of familiarity. It can be a stranger who seems like a beloved old friend. It could be the time you visited an ancient city and sensed this was home. And if you are like me, you have experienced deja-vu throughout your lives. So in the book Deja-vu, Betsey's going to talk about the past lives of famous people like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Thomas Edison, Mark Twain, Jack London, Benjamin Franklin, Seti, Henry Ford, General George S. Patton, Napoleon Bonaparte, William Peter Blatty, Edgar Casey, Shirley MacLaine. Are you not on, hon?
No.
Okay.
Maybe the show's at 4:30, not 4.
No, it's 4.
Well.
I'll tell Mad. I'm on live. I'll tell Mad to call you. Mad, go ahead and call Sasha again. He's not on. Sorry about that. Anyway, we're going to go through this book, and Mad Painter's going to try to get Dr. Sasha Lessin on. So, welcome to the show, Betsey. Let me do a little voice check with Kevin. Kevin, are you on? Kevin Estrella.
I sure am.
Oh, good. I didn't realize that Sasha wasn't there. We're getting him on now. So, how are you today, Kevin? You're up there.
I'm doing really well.
Oh,
I'm
good,
doing really well.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm talking, and I thought Sasha was there. He's not there yet, but I think he's there now. Sasha, voice check. Are you there? Okay. I don't know what's going on. I might have to go check.
It's showing him here. I called him 4 times.
He probably has it plugged in the wrong thing there. Okay. Betsey,
we did this last week.
Are you there? Sasha, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, good. We couldn't hear you. We heard nothing coming from you. So good. How you doing?
Was yelling.
Okay back there?
I was yelling all the way into the United States, and I couldn't hear me. Huh?
Ha 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 ha. Anyway, you missed the intro, so go on to the page. I have a page, everybody, on aquarianradio.com. I've got the bio for Betsey and the intro. Okay, and the Mad Painter, you're there. Okay, the troops are all here. I'm here. So, Betsey Lewis, welcome to our show. I usually have you every year, and I realized I missed you in 2017. So don't let me do that again.
Okay. Well, great to be back, Janet and Sasha. Good to talk to you. It has been a long time. I didn't realize it was 2017 when we last talked, but wow.
No, it was actually, I think, 2016. Unless I'm missing a show.
2016, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. And we have a new co-host, Kevin Estrella, so he's going to be joining in this very important topic. So this is an incredible book. How did you do this? How did you get all these stories of these famous people? Well, and then, of course, the last part is that there's a Los Angeles actress who recalled her past life as Jean Harlow. So we're going to talk about all these things.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes. About the connection with the Kennedys. So good. Let's take it one step at a time. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I became interested in reincarnation when my mother let me know that she remembered a past life in China. And I was quite young then, but she recalled it so clearly. She remembered helping to build the Great Wall of China. And she actually remembered being buried inside the Great Wall. And
wow.
At the time, no one knew that. This was back in the 60s. And now it's been discovered that bodies were entombed in the Great Wall. So, that was pretty amazing. But I've remembered a couple of things, bits and pieces of different lives. And I've always been fascinated with many of the stories that I wrote about. I saw the movie Patton. You probably saw that with George C. Scott, and how he remembered being a warrior on the battlefield. I got chills when I watched that he was standing there and he knew that he had been a warrior, a Roman warrior. He believed that he had been, a prehistoric mammoth hunter. He believed that he had fought with the Persians. He had been a soldier for Alexander the Great, and he was a Roman legionnaire under Julius Caesar. He believed he was a knight, an English knight during the 100 Years' War, and he was with Napoleon. So, and I'm sure if we have another world war, he'll be back, because he said, he knew he came back for World War II. He knew he had a mission. So some of these stories are really incredible. Great stories, all of them. And of course, there was my story, which I investigated in 1981, of an actress. Her name was Jean also, and she believed that she was the reincarnation of Jean Harlow.
Oh,
and yes. And what was really interesting, and how, it's really interesting how I found her through another person. I was working at a talent agency at the time, and this friend of hers introduced me. She had a lot of weird things going on, a lot of paranormal things. The first time I met her at her house in Studio City, we went inside her house and she told me she had spirits there. And I thought, okay, sure. And as soon as we walked into her kitchen, the light went out. It turned off by itself. It was like one of these hard switches, in older homes, and it just switched off. And as soon as we walked out of the room, it switched back on. So I thought, ooh, this is pretty bizarre. But she began to tell me that she went to Brad Steiger, and I'm sure you've heard of Brad Steiger.
Yes.
He's well known in the paranormal world, and he regressed her. And what she revealed under hypnosis, and what she remembered too, that as Jean Harlow, she had been invited to Joseph P. Kennedy's house. That was the father of JFK and Bobby Kennedy. And it was a big party, I guess. She spent the night there. She woke up in the middle of the night to look for her fur coat she had left downstairs, and she walked downstairs. She could hear some men arguing. It was late at night, and there was a basement. She went downstairs, and it was pretty dark in there, and pretty soon someone grabbed her and pulled her into the room. And there she watched a very important leader, and I'm not going to say who it was, but she watched them actually assassinate this great leader, and someone in the world, very important. And he told her that that she would have to pay the price for watching it. And a lot of people don't know that Joseph P. Kennedy was actually involved with some big crime people, a lot of crime people. Sam Giancana was one of the people that he's involved in. So much of her story, even though it was so bizarre, and there's no way of proving this, but there's just a lot of things that started to fall into place. So there might be, and we know the Kennedys have been involved in a lot of things, and especially with blondes. I guess Joseph P. Kennedy was quite the womanizer. So there are elements of truth. So I think you'll enjoy reading that. All of you out there, it's really a fascinating story.
Yeah, the Kennedys have been associated with a lot of bizarre things. I had a girlfriend when I was living in State College, and she had been regressed, and we would hypnotize each other. We kept going into all these past lives. We would do it for days on end, whenever we had time, we'd go through this hypnosis. But she already knew. It's going to sound weird, but she believed firmly she was Marilyn Monroe. And when I met her, she acted like her. And she was 10 years younger than me, so she was born in 1964. And I looked at her, and she said to me, when I first met her, she goes, "Do you believe in reincarnation?" And then I went, "Yes." And then I started saying, I don't know why, it just came out of me. I said, "So, were you murdered or did you suicide?" And then she started to tell me the story. Like I didn't say who she was. I just knew as soon as she said, "You believe in reincarnation." And she swore up and down that Ted did it. Ted was the one. He put a pillow over her and smothered her. And then she was out of her body. And she described everything, what had happened, and she was out of her body. And even where she went after she died, she said, "You're the UFO person. You won't believe this, but I found myself on a spaceship after I died." So anyway, I can't find her anymore. Now I'm doing all these radio shows. That was, in the
that's
early
interesting.
90s.
Well, this person, her name was Jean. She went by the last name of Lawrence, and that wasn't her true name. That was the stage name that she was using. She never became a famous actress, and afterwards she vanished. I ran into a friend years later that said that he saw her on a flight, I think from LA to New York, and she claimed she had cancer, and I don't know if that's true. And the other friend that had originally introduced me to her claimed that they lost contact and she had no idea what happened to her, so she just vanished. But what's really interesting is I had set up a big interview with the National Enquirer. This was going to go nationwide, and she was all set to do it. They wanted their show, their story to get out there. They even wanted to make a movie out of it, and thought because my step-uncle was William Peter Blatty that wrote The Exorcist, that they were going to get this story made into a big movie. And of course he couldn't help them. He was in Hungary at the time working on another movie, and he wasn't going to get involved. But so at the last minute, she decided she didn't want to do the story. I mean, she just totally said, that's it. I'm not going to do it. And I don't know why. It would have been her big chance to reveal everything. But she also remembered about Paul Byrne, who was her abusive husband. He was 25 years older than she was, and he was an executive at MGM, and he was really abusive. And so she described that under hypnosis. It's pretty detailed information. So, yeah, it's a great story. I don't know if it's believable, but I told this story, and people can judge for themselves.
Yes. Well, that sounds exciting. So, so there's all these famous people. Like, were these famous people before? Or were they just unknown people? Anybody who's famous now, famous then?
Well, how about Napoleon Bonaparte? He's quite famous. Yeah.
But who was he before?
Well, he believed that he had been many great important people through the years, and kind of like Patton, he believed that he had been warriors and famous people. I think he believed that he was, I'm trying to remember the person that he thought he was, but he also believed, he believed in reincarnation, but he was fascinated with Egypt. And in 1798, he went to Egypt, and he actually spent the night inside the Great Pyramid, which is interesting. And something very strange happened to him that night. And I guess the next morning he emerged, and his soldiers thought, he looked pretty white. He looked pretty scared, like he'd seen a ghost. But I guess on his deathbed, what he said was that he told his best friend, who asked him what he saw in the Great Pyramid that night. He said, if I told you, you wouldn't believe it. And some people think that what he saw there was actually a vision of the future, his future, and he didn't want to reveal that. So there was something so incredible that he just didn't want to reveal it. So I think that's a great story.
He took it with him to his grave.
He did.
Wow.
And what's really interesting, I had some friends three of them who went inside the Great Pyramid. They were somehow able to get in there one night and spent the night in there too. And what's really strange is that they encountered these orbs, these spheres. The first group, as they were going into the king's chamber, were these glowing red orbs that stopped them in their tracks. And they said several prayers. They believed that, if they let these orbs, know that they were there and not to harm anything, they could pass. And sure enough, the orbs turned into huge blue orbs. And one of them appeared at the king's doorway and then morphed into a very tall, faceless human. But they felt that the red orbs were like guard dogs and protecting the Great Pyramid, the king's chamber. And other people have had incredible experiences. So there's something to that with these pyramids, that they have incredible power. And of course, a lot of people believe that the Great Pyramid could have been some kind of energy vortex, or could have been some kind of time machine. You believe that too? Yes.
I have had a lot of personal experiences with pyramids. My band's name is Pyramids on Mars.
Well, there are those on Mars too. Absolutely.
Yeah. What happened for you? What kind of experiences did you have with pyramids, Kevin?
Oh, geez. Oh, God.
Just a brief one.
The brief one. A guy, Campbell Foster, who I interviewed on my show, he built this thing called he calls it the Spirit Machine, but it's his company is a Pyramidion. It's a pyramid. The base is a pyramid based on the sacred geometry of the Cheops pyramid, and then there's almost like this symbol, like a drum symbol on top of it, which spans the entire perimeter of the pyramid, and this thing plays this incredible music. The sound coming from it's amplifying the sacred geometry of the pyramid.
Wow.
It sounds like an old analog keyboard, like a Moog synthesizer from the 70s. This thing is what it sounds like. It's completely natural. Yeah.
Do you remember when Zahi Hawass, during, I think it was like the 1980s, took a film crew in there? National Geographic was a part of it, and they had found this secret door, this chamber, and they thought they were gonna find something, and all they found was kind of another door that they couldn't get to. They had to send in a robot, but it was such a three-ring circus. It was just ludicrous. But
those shows back in the 80s, they would sensationalize everything and build up, and what was Geraldo Rivera did some of those where right, tracking this down and all this hype. It was hilarious.
I know. And they never found anything, right? But there are those chambers and doors that seem to go nowhere. So what were they used for? There's just so many theories about the Great Pyramid and how it was built. I still think there was some levitation involved.
Yeah, Sasha might have some insights. Do you want to share anything about what you've learned about the pyramids?
Well, what I know is what the Anunnaki told a guy named Enki told his scribe, and then Zechariah Sitchin, my teacher, translated it, and then so it comes down to the pyramid was multi-purposeful. There's stagnant water underneath it, and when they pumped on the water with a pump, which is a channel to the Nile. Under pressure, it started. They would do it especially as the energy was coming up. The piezoelectric energy changes just before the sun comes up, about 4 a.m. And so you combine those two things, and right above it in the chambers, and some of our scientific colleagues actually did a test to see what was poured down these little portals, and basically hydrated potassium and hydrochloric acid were then combined over this pumping telluric energy that was coming up, and this caused a hydrogen explosion when the HCl and the potassium joined. And then all around there was 24 what they called it was precious stones, but what that means is computer basically amplifiers, and it was projected out the top of the pyramid where it was picked up in the monoliths. That's how the lights shine in Luxor, because the Egyptians had they had electricity indeed, but way beyond all that, there were a lot of other things going on in the records, and basically there was weapons there. And when Ninurta and Inanna were chasing Marduk through this place, there was basically Anu calmed Inanna and said, "You better not catch him. He's got weapons. He'll kill you." But when Ninurta got control of it, he took off the Gug stone, which was on top, made of electrum, and he took whatever he could, and he broke everything else. And so that's all the story there. But of course, underneath the pyramid, there's a portal that goes down. It's one to the tunnels that connect with Shambhala, with the whole complex of Agartha, the underworld. And one of my friends, Grace, had an experience where she was possessed by a spirit in the Great Pyramid. Another, I think it was Joan Hangarden, died when she was in the pyramid and was revived. All kinds of incredible experiences have happened to people who, what Grace was able to do was she actually got to get into the sarcophagus, and that's where she had an incredible experience too. Anyway, because of my ethnicity, I'm reluctant to go to Egypt at all, even though Mr. Sisi is friendly to my people.
Well, do any of you remember when Zahi Hawass, he was the head of the Department of Antiquities at the time, wanted to have a gold capstone put on the top of the Great Pyramid, and I guess there was such an uproar about it that it never happened. But according to Casey, that there was a gold capstone on the Great Pyramid. Yeah. Edgar Casey said that under his trance sleep type state, and that it had incredible power when it had the
that's a pyramidion. That's
it was also chosen.
Wait, one at a time. Okay, go ahead, and then I'll let Kevin. The purpose
of the electrum or the gold on top is you could see it all the way from flying over Europe. It was so far, and what after the spaceport was wiped out in Noah's flood of 13,000 or so BCE, they built an alternate spaceport in the Sinai, and the pyramids were the marker where you're supposed to turn in order to land on the great big runway in Sinai. This according to the Sumerians. Of course, I wasn't there, so I don't know.
Kevin, go ahead. What you want to say?
Well, maybe you were, Sasha. You might have been there in another lifetime. How do you know?
What I mean is, I'm aware of avoiding Egypt since Israel, France, and Britain took the canal back, and Ike made them give it back to the Egyptians. I haven't felt safe going there.
Kevin, you want to say something? Go ahead.
I was just saying, the capstone of the pyramid is called the pyramidion. That's the top part. And the other thing that was about my experience with the pyramidion, this instrument that I played, and this is very important. I was playing along with it with my guitar, but then because the energy was so powerful with this instrument, that I decided to control it telepathically. And I did. I changed the sound of. I actually was able to change the frequency from a fifth to a third into higher intervals and bring the volume up and down telepathically of this pyramid.
Wow.
And the significance of this, as I said, this is all synchronicities. I finally realized I was actually playing a pyramid. My band is Pyramids on Mars. I've worn a pyramid since I was a teenager.
Great name.
And the day Campbell didn't even know that you could play this instrument telepathically. I was the very first person to do it. And the more significance of this, guess what day it was? It was my birthday.
Your birthday.
It was like I was born for this.
Born for this, yeah. And I just remember Sodom. I remember a past life involving the area. It wasn't the pyramid, but it was the Sphinx. And the Sodom and Gomorrah was blowing up, and we were warned. And so we ran to the right paw of the Sphinx, which somehow we had access to. And as we were going down towards what they were calling the halls of Amenti, we encountered like a barrier, but it put us into our molecular form. So suddenly we were in our molecular form. We weren't dead. We weren't alive. We were just, into our, like Osiris, we were dissolved into our molecular form. But we were able to, somehow we knew how to, regather our form and then reconstitute ourselves as solid humanoid beings. So I wasn't quite a human. I was a humanoid. But that was a clear memory. My past life memories are not always human. So I just want to warn you. I have a lot of human ones, but I have. Nope, I am not. I remember being in the ocean, like some kind of aquatic being. I remember flying. I remember all these different things. But these were sentient beings. They were conscious. They were intelligent, but not always human. So, wow, it's a fascinating subject.
It is.
Okay. We're going to kind of go round robin here, so I'll start with a question, and then we'll have everybody ask you questions and ask each other questions. But just to say, I have a lot of past life memories, and I have many as a human being. I have, when I was very, very young, I'd say under 3, I kept dreaming about falling to my death, and I was I call it the storming of the Bastille incarnation. I was male. I was running from some troops. I went into what I believe was the Bastille. I ran to the top level. I was trapped. There were guards around me, and there was a character I called Nemesis, and he was coming up with me to sword fight me or whatever we were doing. And I was very athletic, so I leapt up onto the banister, and I was kind of dancing around. I couldn't kill him. I just didn't have it in me to kill him. But he was floppy, and there was a dozen times I could have killed him. So I went, well, I'm going to wear out here, and they're going to just capture me, and then they'll torture me. So I decided to leap towards this tapestry and try to, escape that way. But as I was going down, I decided I don't want to hit the ground. That'll hurt. So I left, and as I left my form, I encountered 2 of my friends. One was my beloved female, and my best friend male. And we all started laughing because we had all been killed by these troops, and we said, "Wow, that was an incredible life." It was like, what a wild ride! I can't believe what we just did. So we laughed and went on the other side. And I kept having that dream from age about 2 or 3 till I was in my 20s before I stopped having it. And then when I was in my 40s, I met the man who was my best friend. And then the rest of the story emerged from my subconscious. So I've had some powerful experiences. I can't prove any of it, but I've been hypnosed and regressed to many, many different incarnations. It's fascinating stuff.
I just have proof of one past life, and that's it. Well, I mean, at least one that I'm consciously aware of, which was quite interesting. I think we spoke about this, Elizabeth April, when we interviewed her.
Okay, go ahead, new audience.
Yes. So she's the one who discovered for me. She told me that I had a past life in ancient Egypt, yet I was not human. I was a reptilian general, and I had a lot of important things that I was doing back then. and I ended up working with the Galactic Federation, and I was actually one of the ones responsible for putting the reptilians back underground. But I didn't really believe the story until I was speaking to a friend of mine who channels with a tall white. Her name's Dee Dee, and I asked Dee Dee if this was true, and her response to me was, "Yes, it's true. Yet I'm not authorized to talk about it because it involves someone else." And I'm like, and that was her answer. So it was verified. Yeah.
And Sasha, do you have any past lives you remembered?
Oh, sure. I am a certified past life therapist. I studied with Roger Wilker, the guy that wrote Other Lives, Other Selves, and so I've done this an awful lot. But the one that was most dramatic for me is I was living in a shtetl, and it's a little shanty town that my ancestors lived in what's now Belarus, and I was really upset with the other people in the village. I was a young guy because I thought the Russians were fun. I liked the way they danced. I thought we should be friends with them because they lived right, nearby. They're, it's poor people like us too. And nobody would listen to me. And so pretty soon, it's time for the pogrom, and here comes the goddamn Cossacks. But I knew it was going to happen, so I took my wife and daughter, and we were escaping over the mountains. I could hear people being hassled and killed and taken away. The way the Cossacks around this time actually stole all the 10-year-old children to make them imperial guards. Anyway, I'm crossing the mountain, and this great big bear came out, and it was just me and my wife and my kid, and I knew I didn't have a chance. We didn't have a chance against this bear, but I took 2 staves and told them to keep going, and it was an altruistic suicide. I died in that life. The bear killed me, but I was able in spirit to see that my wife and daughter were taken in, and so forth. And that was the one that really seemed dramatic, and I had a lot of feelings for it. I've done this so much, but most of my lives are mundane and ordinary people, because that's who I am now. I'm a very ordinary person.
You're nothing but ordinary, honey, but yeah, go ahead. What about you, Betsey? Any of your past lives stand out?
Well, I remember that I knew Mark Twain somehow, and I think I was a friend or maybe a family member. I know that anytime that I've ever read anything about him, I get very emotional, but I knew certain things about him. I knew that he was fascinated with science, and he was really into time machines and time jumping, and his book about Number 44, The Mysterious Stranger, it might have been about time travel. It's kind of, it's kind of an obscure type of book. Not too many people know about it, but I feel that I knew him. I remember a past life in Egypt. I remember catacombs, crawling through catacombs, and I remember seeing some of the huge statues, so I know I was there. I remember a past life as a pioneer going across the country and being attacked by Indians. I was actually a Native American in another lifetime, so I remember those. And I think that's pretty much it. That's all I remember, just bits and pieces.
Yeah, it's interesting. You'll find yourself drawn to something like reading Mark Twain or a certain period in time. I remember I was watching the back in the 70s. There was the 6 Wives of Henry VIII. It was a PBS series, and I just started bawling when they came to the 5th wife. And it was personal, and I was like shocked. Thinking, why am I so, emotionally? So anyway, then years went by, and I was in a meditation class, and we met once a week, and we did like a 3-hour meditation, and then part of the practice was every day at the same time you have to meditate for 15 minutes. So I did this whole practice, and when I was just shocked one night. I remembered like 6, 7 past lives, and one of them was this fifth wife of Henry VIII. And I can't prove anything, but it's like I was there. I was getting my head chopped off. It was so real. Wow. You know, I knew what it was like having sex with Henry, and it wasn't going to work. He was sterile, or he couldn't get it up. So I took a lover, which was his bastard son, and I rationalized. I said, well, at least if I get pregnant, he won't kill me, and this will be his bloodline. It's on the royal blood. So I all this detail, and I woke up and I was like, oh my God, is that true? Anyway, so
that's pretty amazing.
Something I pondered all my life. Yeah. But you don't want to be somebody famous, because people go, oh, you're just making it up. But it's like, maybe, some people are famous, like the woman you interviewed in L.A. So go ahead, Sasha.
Oh, I find it interesting. We could even do it now, and the radio audience could do it too. If you think about your spirit going around and around the globe, and see if there's any place that you feel attracted to or repelled by. And if there is such a place, that you choose one of them, and you can even start by seeing feet, and then the rest of the body, and then imagining you're in it, and something's about to happen.
Actually,
and you can, at a critical incident, that somehow has given you a script that's still affecting you. I won't tell you what all happens, but take that little script and just see if you have some flash with it anyhow.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really good point, because I've always felt like Egypt feels home to me. Like that feels like home. It's hard to explain. The whole thing you described about seeing your feet. Mark Sorensen took me on a past life regression to my planet of origin, and that was actually the first thing he described as like looking at your feet, right? And when I was in this state, I didn't have feet. I was this ethereal energy body. I didn't even have feet. I just had like orange is like energy, and I was on a blue crystal planet. Yeah, I was on a blue crystal planet. It was a planet that was like nothing but crystal, and the sun, the way the sun was, it was like I was pretty much always sunset. And I just remember hearing this energy, like these crystals were speaking. The whole place is like covered in blue crystals with white, and tops to them and stuff. And the energy there was incredible.
Wow. So, Betsey, what else should we know about your book, Deja-vu? What are some of the critical things that our listeners should know about your book?
One of the most incredible stories of reincarnation was about Dorothy Eady, who became known as Om Seti. She later became an Egyptologist, but what's really interesting about her is she recalled a past life in ancient Egypt 3,000 years ago when she was a high priestess, and she fell in love with Seti the First, and he was the pharaoh from the 19th dynasty and father of Ramesses the Great. And what's really strange is she was born in England in 1904, and she recalled that she, this is before she recalled everything, but she had a near-death experience. She fell down a flight of stairs, and she was pronounced dead by the family physician. She wasn't moving, she wasn't breathing, and her parents were just beside themselves. They were devastated, and within hours, she came alive again. But she wasn't the same person. She was totally different. And she started telling them that they weren't her parents. She said that wasn't her home in England. And the first time she saw photographs of Egypt, her father brought home a book. I think it was like encyclopedia. She saw the photos and she just went crazy. And then the next time her parents took her to the Museum of Antiquities in London. She saw some of the Egyptian exhibits, and she saw the actual mummy of Seti, and she ran to it, and she hugged the bottom of it, and they tried to get her away from it. She refused to go. She was screaming and crying and, "Don't take me away." And eventually, as she got older, she did move to Cairo. She married an Egyptian man. She had a child, but she gave up the child to her husband. She got a divorce. And what's really strange is that Seti began visiting her, his astral form. And the first time she saw him was when she was around 14, 15, and he appeared as he did when he died as a mummy, and it scared her. But slowly he was able to manifest into what he actually looked like. And he began telling her incredible stories. And they actually had this love affair again. I guess when she was a high priestess, she fell in love with him, and they had an affair, which was a big no-no for a priestess. They were supposed to stay virgins. And she committed suicide. So she was not able to reincarnate for 3,000 years because of what she did. And he searched the whole universe looking for her until he found her. And what a love story, right? 3,000-year-old love story. And so when she started studying about all kinds of things about Egypt, she started learning the hieroglyphs. She could read them, and she worked for the Department of Antiquities. And what's really strange is that at night, sometimes people would see this dark figure standing over her, and that was Seti. He would come and visit her, and she learned how to astral project. She could actually go with him different places. And when she she started working in Abydos, and that's where the great temple was that Seti built, in the Osirian temple, which is very sacred. And there was just incredible things. She told Egyptologists that she kept saying, "Well, where are the gardens here?" There were beautiful, beautiful gardens. And they said, "Well, there's no gardens. There was never any gardens here." And she said, "Yes, there was trees, there was plants, there was flowers." And I guess years later, they dug up some of the area in there, and they discovered roots of trees. But what's amazing about her is she knew Egyptian magic, and a lot of the villagers at the time were really frightened of her. They respected her, but she had this healing ability. And she also found that the Assyrian water, which is so sacred at the time, was healing. I guess it would sparkle at the time, and many people went there. She had certain ailments that actually healed her, and people that were sick would go there. But I guess the waters have become so muddied and polluted through the years that it's no longer like that. But here's what the real kicker. I love this story. Seti said that he was able to go outside, astral project to other places in the universe. And he went to this place. He said it was so frightening and so terrifying that he said there was this great civilization there. He saw this sparkling type of particles in this great big beautiful city. And there were all kinds of flying machines. There were people, but they were all dead. They were all dead. He said they wore tunics. They wore some kind of leggings. They were all bald. Nobody had hair. There was children. And everybody was just like they were frozen in time. They were all dead. And there's strange looking animals. He said that some of the animals had plants in their mouths, which she said reminded her of the mammoths when they instantly died in Siberia with plants in their mouth. And when he returned, the council told him, and the council sounds like they are highly evolved beings. They told him never to go outside the earth, that humans are supposed to stay on earth, that those are evil worlds, and never to visit there again. So I thought that was really interesting. Are we not supposed to go to other worlds? Are we quarantined here? I think we are. And you know what? Another thing that I thought was he was describing Mars, because I know that a great civilization lived on Mars. And who knows? That might have been the Martians.
Right, right. Well, the Anunnaki has a story of civilizations on Mars. Do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about what you know, Dr. Lessin, about Mars? And then Kevin.
Okay, yeah. When the Lyrans.
What do you know?
Okay, so when the Lyrans were attacked by the Dracos, and they spread various places. They came to two places in the Solaris system, to Maldek, which was a big planet between Mars and Jupiter, and to Mars itself, which was like Earth was before we spoiled it. And the Dracos, in the meantime, pursuing him because they had plans for this solar system. They got a hollowed-out comet, which was really an asteroid inside. So it entered the system, and it was coming right at Maldek. And the Maldekans asked, who were Lyrans like the Martians, said, "Can we go in? Can we take shelter with you on Mars? So this thing is coming after us." And they had been quarreling, but the Martians said, "Well, you're humans too. We understand about the Dracos. You can come be with us in our shelter." And so the Death Star, Death Comet, went past Maldek, and they blew it up with their weapons, and it became the Kuiper belt of asteroids, and proceeded on to Mars. And when it got to Mars, it sucked off the surface water, most of it, and most of the surface air. But the Maldekans and the Martians were okay. And later on, this Death Planet went past Earth and sucked off the water. Earth was completely water covered. Then it sucked enough so that two planets, Lemuria and Atlantis, rose. And then this Death Planet became Venus. The Dracos came out, built 7 cities. They made a stationary moon from which they were to invade Earth. They brought their beef with them. That was the dinos, the dinosaurs. And they settled Lemuria. But anyway, I'm going way beyond what your question was. So there was definitely a series of civilizations on Mars. The ex-king of Nibiru, Olalu, after he bit off his rival's manhood, was exiled to die on Mars. And so they built the Cydonia statue facing Earth with his helmet, his eagle helmet pulled back. And they had a whole big base there of transshipping the gold from Earth through Mars on up to Nibiru. And, obviously there was thermonuclear exchanges. And right unto modern days, there's reports from people we've interviewed of huge structures all over Mars. There's all kinds of different extraterrestrials and corporate personnel and slaves and Germans, Nazis, and all kinds of things happening on Mars. It's a big place.
And we're coming up on our break. Kevin, real quick, what do you know about Mars? Because you're calling your group Pyramids on Mars.
Yeah, well, I study, a lot of, like the Cydonia region quite a bit, but the one thing that I learned most about recently is in regards to, I forget the name of the guy, this scientist who's actually come out now, and about these 2 nuclear explosions that have been, verified on Mars. This signature, there's some kind of signature marker of I forget what isotope it is, but basically it's a Mars signature that they have found. They found these, and they found them on Earth as well.
It's
but
Tephra.
This guy is that what it is?
Yeah, where there's been a nuclear exchange, the rocks are crystallized and turn into this stuff like the Sinai and Hiroshima and Nagasaki were covered with these things.
Yeah, and there was some kind of nuclear isotope. I can't remember which one it is, but It's an isotope that's been discovered on Mars, and it's a signature for Mars of this, that there was these nuclear explosions that took place, and there's been at least 2 that were massive that pretty much destroyed both the planet. I forget the name of the guy who actually came out who's released this information, but it was actually the Ministry of Defense that actually authorized him to go public with this information, which is what I find even more fascinating. It's like they're just disclosing. It's like, releasing information in the public.
So, Betsey, you've written a number of books, and we're going on our break in about 2 minutes. But what else would you like to say about this book, and then what other books would you like to cover during the second half of the show?
Oh, well, okay. There's just a lot of great stories in there, including, like I said, Ruth Montgomery. I talk about walk-ins, and perhaps Seti was a walk-in. She had a near-death experience, and a lot of people don't know what walk-ins are, but it's not possession. It's kind of spirits are exchanging souls, like a soul on the other side wants to inhabit a physical body, and it's really a mutual agreement on a subconscious level to allow another soul to enter their body and finish their mission on life. And I knew someone that claimed that they were a walk-in, and they said that after a near-death experience, she felt that her parents weren't her parents, and there was just a lot of strange things. She didn't want to be around her friends anymore. She totally changed.
I've heard of that before, and I read the books by Ruth Montgomery back in the 80s. So we'll have to cover that when we come back, and then anything else that comes to mind.
Okay,
and,
sounds great.
You have so many books. How many books do you have now?
Oh, I think there's about 11 of them now.
About 11 books now. Yeah, I think I met you when you only had 3 or 4. You've been very busy.
That's right.
Yeah.
It has been crazy.
There's our cue. We're taking a commercial break. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Thank you. Hola.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Did you ever feel that things were not quite right? That everything was just ever so slightly askew?
Do you have, to paraphrase Morpheus, a splinter in your mind?
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal,
ancient cultures and structures,
monatomic elements,
longevity,
fantastic discoveries in science,
downloaded to your brain,
then tune into us. Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Mackie.
And we are Shiny Side Out, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Join me weekdays for my new show, Tell Chris Joe. It's going to be a problem show brought to you live from Kensington. Thursdays, I'm dealing with hot topics, heated debate, what's new around the world, and ring-ins to discuss listeners' problems and offering considered and heartfelt solutions. So join me, Chris Hart, for Tell Chris Joe. Stop what you're doing, grab a cup of tea. I'm coming live from Kensington. Relax, let me entertain you with a coffee bar online. Listeners' very personal problems. So that's Thursdays, 2 p.m. in the afternoon, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. see you there. It's going to be lots of fun.
Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Looking for a nightcap to fill your listening needs? Come join us on Spaced Out Radio with me, Dave Scott, right here on Revolution Radio. Monday through Friday for 3 hours a night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we will take you down the supernatural path. From ET contact to the paranormal and all of the spiritual, cryptid, and conspiracy stories in between. You can find us right here on Revolution Radio, at spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter at spacedoutradio, and on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show. Spaced Out Radio. It's a night of talk and interaction. Are you experienced?
Let us play with all our joys and let us think that we're...
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Aloha and welcome back to Stargate to the Cosmos on Revolution Radio. And I'm your host, Jenna Lessin, with Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin and Kevin Estrella, my co-host and producer, Thomas Becker, and my guest, Betsey Lewis. But before we get back to our show, I'd like to remind everybody to please go over and make a donation. Go to revolution.radio's button or freedomslips.com. There's a button to make your donation, and whatever you donate, we will greatly appreciate. Mad Painter, where are we in our goals for this month?
We have 2139 and we need 2650. We're doing pretty good. We need about $80 to $100 a day to fill out the month, and I want to thank everybody who has already donated. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So we have another hour approximately, and we're going to go round table here. Let me start with Sasha. What do you hope to talk about in the next hour?
I want to hear about the rest of Betsy's rest of your books, Betsey.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if we can cover all of them here. But,
can't.
Well,
let me just ask Kevin real quick, and then we'll choose something. So, Kevin, what would you like to? What direction would you like to go in? Did you get to see the post with her books, or you aren't near your computer?
I saw briefly before the show. I'd like to hear the same thing, actually.
Okay, great. So, Betsey, the ball's in your court. What do you feel is incomplete about the deja-vu book, and then where do you want to go next? And we'll
Okay, well, I'll just wrap up the deja-vu book. And there's a story about my step-uncle, William Peter Blatty, that wrote The Exorcist, and how he believed in reincarnation and all the supernatural things that happened to him during the filming of The Exorcist. When his mother died, things started happening. Phones were lifting off the cradle. And there were experiments with reel-to-reel tapes. That's electronic voice phenomenon. And when his son died, suddenly, he was only 19 years old at the time, strange things started happening in his Washington, D.C. house. The lights started flickering off and on, and there was just other weird things. So there's that in there. I answer a lot of questions from my spirit guides about reincarnation, about death, about suicide. So I think there's just some incredible things. Also, a very famous psychic also talks about these different things and what it's like on the afterlife, the other side. He was actually John Wayne's psychic for many years before he passed away. Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. And if you want to talk about... Did he
contact John Wayne?
Beg your pardon?
Has he contacted John Wayne? Has he contacted John Wayne?
Well, no, he
Has John Wayne contacted him?
No, actually, he passed away many, many years ago. Armand Marcotte. But no, he passed away many years ago. But he was quite famous for a while in Los Angeles. So he gives a lot of different information about the other side. And I also included Seth material, which a lot of people don't know was actually channeled by Jane Roberts, and some of the most incredible information you'll ever read about the reality of nature.
Yeah, I had a gentleman from upstate New York that studied with Jane Roberts, went to her weekly group all through, I guess it was the 60s and 70s or something, or however often. And so he came on, and it blew my mind. When I was reading the Seth stuff back in the 70s or 80s when I finally got a hold of the book, I couldn't get past the coughing. They literally translated it, and Jane coughed, and I went, oh, come on.
I know, yeah. You have to read the book.
So, I know, I couldn't get past the coughing. It was making me want to cough. Anyway, it was weird. Okay, so...
I guess I didn't talk to you. The last time that I talked to you, did I talk about my book, Ancient Serpent Gods, and my theory about...
I don't know if we ever... what year was that published?
That was published, let's see, I was on Coast to Coast this last April about it. And it was... Yeah.
What would you like to share about that?
Well, it's really interesting because George Norrie never reads people's books. He gets questions like you guys. And what he said on air just blew me away. He said Ancient Serpent Gods is based on one of the most amazing, astounding theories I've ever heard. Now, and that just blew me away. I was really honored that he said that about the book, because it is quite different. There's no other theory out there about what I believe are the reptilian aliens and where they came from.
Well, tell us about that. Who are, in your theory, who are the reptilian aliens, and where do they come from?
Well, when you think about it, every civilization around the world worshipped serpents, right? No matter where you go, China, we know, Asia, there's serpent gods, Egypt, serpent gods, Native Americans, serpent gods, South America, serpent gods. But who were these serpent gods, the reptilians? Where did they come from? So, there's just so much evidence that actually reptilian dinosaurs may have evolved. I believe, my theory is, and I know someone else that has the same theory, that said that a certain species of dinosaur became so intelligent. Now, dinosaurs were intelligent anyway, but somehow they evolved. They became more intelligent than we had. They had close to 300 million years to evolve compared to what humans had. We only supposedly had 200,000 years to evolve, which I don't believe. I think that's totally erroneous.
Right.
But what's really interesting is this dinosaur. I gave one kind of dinosaur the Troodon, which I believe might have actually been one of those that turned into the reptilians. And you know how many people have actually described reptilian beings, that they were abducted by these aliens? And why did these aliens always go into the water, or they emerge from the water? Why are they right here? We've heard stories of people vanishing around Dulce, New Mexico, and the reptilians that live down below there. There's just so many compelling things about it. So I think they do exist. And I give so many different examples of people that have talked about it, and what they have found about, scientists have found about the dinosaurs that existed back then. They weren't slow moving like we believe, that they were cold blooded. Some were warm blooded. They were very intelligent, and they did move fast. So, when you think about it, maybe something 65 million years ago didn't destroy all the dinosaurs like we've been told. That maybe, like the Loch Ness Monster could be some kind of dinosaur that survived through the ages. I'm not saying that it's that old, but, the species somehow, continued on, but I think there's just a lot of evidence for it. And the people that have disappeared, in places in the Southwest, I think a lot of these aliens exist. And I think the little grays are actually their kind of workers or slaves, if you want to call that. Don't you think? I think the reptilians are the intelligent.
This opens a lot for discussion for this second hour. And I know I can feel both Kevin and Sasha wanting to say things about the reptilian. But let me just say this. Did you ever wonder where they got the flea stacks in the land of the lost? They came up from underground, right? So what we have found, discovered in our research, which includes, all kinds of directions where information comes to us from experiencers, contactees, secret space program people, research into the, ancient aliens. Apparently there's a part of the reptilian culture which is older than the human culture, and they are underground. And they go underground because it ties in with the Anunnaki story. The cycle where Nibiru comes in and the surface is uninhabitable. So they've gone underground, they stay underground, and they're pissed. They come up and they go, wait, this was our planet. Now we got all these humans all over the place. So there's even an interview of one of the underground reptilians. It's on YouTube. I listened to it, and it's a very detailed, like 5 or 6 hour story about this reptilian that's describing, their culture and everything. So we have all these stories of underground cultures.
Are you talking about Lacerda?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Amazing interview.
It's an amazing interview. It really makes you think. It's like, whoa.
The Lacerda interview, the female reptilian. Yes, it's incredible.
Yeah, I'll have to listen to that one again. And then, of course, Admiral Byrd, when he went down
of course.
To the Antarctica.
The Hollow Earth. That's in my book, too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's in my book.
I personally had some interactions with a reptilian, or 2 or 3. And then, so I'm going to pass it. You want to go first, Kevin? What do you know about the reptilians here?
Sure. Well, actually,
this whole dinosaur thing.
Yeah, what you were saying, Janet, is correct. I mean, the reptilians. There was a race of reptilians back in the dinosaur age that did evolve much faster, and became the reptilian race, that was here on Earth before humans. And that's why when our friend Misha Johnson was, at that Milab military base, and she was being escorted by a reptilian, and she asked him straight out, why are you here on Earth? And he just turned to her and said, "This is not your planet. This is our planet." Right. But there's a long history in regards to what happened with the reptilians and wars that broke out and nuclear destruction and the annihilation of the dinosaurs, and many reptilians that had to leave the Earth because the Earth was no longer a place to live, and they ended up being relocated to other areas of the galaxy. It's a long, complicated history. It really is.
Yes. Sasha, what would you like to add?
Okay, well, from my perspective, the narrative is after the moon was put in place, the reptilians settled Lemuria, which was a really nice continent. It's Hawaii and as a mountaintop of this continent that is no longer there. But and they had 1 million years, and the dinosaurs were there that they brought with them were their beef, what they ate, and in the meantime, the Lyrians had organized the Federation, Galactic Federation, and they set the Atlans down on Atlantis, the other continent, and they also took the Maldecans, who had taken shelter in Mars, to the Gobi Desert. But in any case, they were trying to stop the Dracos, and the dinosaurs. They just shot them with their laser weapons, and the Dracos. Basically, there was this ongoing war for many hundreds of thousands of years. The Dracos went underground. The Atlanteans developed machines to tell where they were burrowing and what they were doing, and could kill them from the top. And finally, the Andromedans called the Council of Hatona, where it was agreed that they would make proto beings that would be some kind of a combination and stop these incessant wars. And so that 12 humanoid groups and 1 reptilian group contributed, and the reptilians contributed the brainstem genetics. Each in their own area tried to develop their proto being to be perfected, and so forth. And it goes on and on like this, but eventually the Atlanteans even sunk themselves. And what we find, from my perspective, is that macroevolution is not really the case in planet Earth. Most of the beings here came here, or they were seeded here on purpose or made genetically. And rather than, for me anyway, thinking about some reptile evolved into a highly developed being, these beings were here. And what they say about themselves, from the interviews we've got and the stuff we've read, is that the princess that is the head of the reptilians on Earth, is free of the Draco Empire. And many of the Dracos who live in Agartha and have one of them assisted Onizuka and Richards in the Dulce rescue and so forth. So that happened. And my Navajo friends actually tell me that when they first settled their area where they are now, there was a snake that kept eating people, and they made a deal with the snake that they would give the firstborn of this particular clan each generation to the snake if it would just stay at its place and not come up and keep eating people. So we get stories like that. And then, of course, we have the story of Nancy Tremaine and others who have had loving relationships, ongoing relationships with reptilians. And so the idea of reptilian being some kind of an evil enemy is terribly mistaken. There's a variety of reptilian beings, and the ones that are in Agartha, like all the people in Agartha, are under the king of Bodland, and they're peaceful, and they want the planet to evolve too. That was the whole purpose of the Council of Hatona, from my limited perspective.
And I have my own connection to the reptilians too.
Okay, you go next, Kevin, then back to Betsy. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, just saying I have my own connection to the reptilians too. I mean, from all the pieces I've been putting together, learning about my past history in ancient Egypt, but also the fact that Nancy Tremaine and I have this crazy symbiotic quantum consciousness entanglement that's going on. And I think it honestly has to do with a connection with Mystery of the Reptilians. She and I have these crazy synchronicities that happen, but there's even more things that have happened even recently, because I went to the Ozark UFO conference last weekend to see Nancy Tremaine's presentation, and it was the most incredible. Oh my God, this thing is going to go. She's going to get a movie deal out of it. It was a standing ovation to a 1.5 hour presentation. You could hear a pin drop. No one made a sound the entire time of the presentation, and everybody was in tears the entire presentation. It was the most emotional presentation I ever saw in my life. It was incredible.
Oh.
But what she and I discovered, because she had me as her guest for the dinner, and she's looking at me and she says, "Kevin, you have the same color eyes as I do. Your eyes are green." I'm like, yeah, actually, it's funny you mentioned that, Nancy, because my eyes have always been hazel, but around the UFO conference last year that you and I attended, my eyes turned green. She said, "Funny. Mine did too at that time."
Well, what color eyes were hers?
Hers were like kind of hazel blue. Her eyes turned green too last year at the same time as mine did. And I'm still trying to figure this out.
That would be interesting research. My mother had green eyes, and the last time I saw her before she died, her eyes had turned bright blue, and I have blue eyes. So, and then we couldn't figure out, like, why did they suddenly turn bright blue when they had been green? She was like 76 years old. 76 years, she had green eyes. So there's something that makes that change, but I don't know if anybody's ever researched it. I'll have to look that up. But, yeah, maybe some kind of, who knows? Who knows what make that happen? Interesting. So I want to add, if you're finished, are you finished, Kevin? So you...
Oh yeah, that was with the reptilians. My other connection to the reptilian is the fact that I became a telepathic translator for Alpha Draconia at the Alien Cosmic Expo in Toronto last year, and I actually felt his physical presence inside me. I grew wings, my shoulder blades went out crazy, and my voice dropped. They said, "Kevin, that wasn't you speaking. That was somebody else." I channeled this 13-foot, 16-foot Alpha Draconian with wings.
Yeah, and then I had an experience where I was on Johnston Atoll, which is a military base. It's supposed to be quote-unquote closed, and it's still active. But I was there when it was active in 97. It was December of 96. They took me to the underground facility, and there was this huge gathering of over 1,000 humanoid beings, and they directed me down to the inner cavern, and there was a giant dragon, like huge, full-on size of a. It was just like the biggest one, like in Lord of the Rings, that Frodo had to encounter, that size dragon. It was like, whoa. But she was very gentle, and she projected herself down to my size, or she remained in her size. She sent her consciousness down into an avatar, which she created with her mind, to stand before me, so we could have a conversation, because we're equals. It's not a size thing. So, we step on an ant, at some level, it's like, yeah, it's real easy to think of things that are real small in comparison to you, but they're less than. But consciousness is consciousness, and it doesn't matter what size. So to show respect for the consciousness within both of us, she made herself small so we could talk. And we were witnessed by over 1,000 beings, and it was all telepathic, so everybody knew everything. Wow. So, yeah. So our dinosaurs, good or bad, dragons, reptiles, I think it's very complicated, just like humans. We have all the variations on the theme. Back to you, Betsey. Unless anybody else has any more comments before we pass it back to Betsey.
You need to judge the individual, not the the blanket.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't judge a reptilian by its face. Is that it?
No, judge them by who they are. By the
It's all a matter of scale.
Very good. That's good, Sasha. Good one. I've got a great story to tell you, and it's a YouTube video that's probably been watched, I don't know, probably over 1 million times, but it's Lisa's story, hybrid story. And what's really interesting, she is French speaking, and she speaks very little English. So Luigi, who told the story, she was at some convention at the time when he's telling her story, but she stands 6'3", has blonde hair and pale green eyes, and she's really different. But her story began in 1975, before her birth, when her mother was 8 months pregnant in Saint Jerome, Quebec. And one day her mom decided to rest for a while, feeling a little tired, and suddenly she felt paralyzed on her bed as 2 tiny gray aliens entered her bedroom. I guess they actually came through the wall. They spoke to her telepathically, and one said, "She's not ready yet," and the other one said, "She's ready." And Lisa's mom was frightened, of course, and told them to leave her alone, that her other children were there, and they vanished soon after. But 1 month later, Lisa's mom was at the hospital giving birth, and she had gone to her doctor for checkups, and everything looked normal until that day. She gave birth to a healthy boy, but within minutes, the nurse went screaming to the doctor and returned to the room and said, there was another baby on the way. There's a twin. And he says, "Oh, no, that's impossible. There's no way." And that's when Lisa was born. So the doctor was stunned, of course. He couldn't believe it, that there was another one. But many years later, when Lisa was a teenager, her mom was visited by a tall, human-looking alien. And the alien had red hair and wore a type white suit with a doctor's type of coat on top. And what caught my attention about this story was the insignia on the coat. It was a coiled snake. Isn't that interesting? But it goes on.
Yeah.
She was taken to a room where she was asked she asked the alien what his name was, and he said John. And she thought he meant like Jock or something, but no, he said John. And the room felt like a pharmacy with all these vials there. And the alien said they had all the medicine in the whole universe that could cure humanity, but we're not going to give it to you because you are not supposed to be sick, is what he told her. And then years later, Lisa had experienced these recurring really weird dreams. One vision, she became a lizard and felt the ground beneath her feet. And although she has a pretty much normal life, she's very intuitive. And this Luigi actually conducts alien abductee experiencer meetings in northern Quebec. And one of his meetings, Lisa was there, and she met Sarah for the first time, who is from the UK. And although they had never met before, somehow they sensed an instant recognition, as if they had been long lost friends. And after meeting Lisa, Lisa was given a crystal by a friend, and Sarah took the crystal and said, "Please ask Lisa if her blood type is O negative." And Lisa answered in French, "I am O negative." And Sarah said she knew that, and she said, "So am I." I guess all these people out there that are O negative are hybrids, part reptilian or whatever they are, but they have O negative blood, which is very unusual. It has some very strange things about
I thought it was RH negative.
Yeah, it is.
RH negative?
RH negative.
Yeah, RH negative, and it's passed down through parents' genes. But you have a problem if you get pregnant. If you have Rho negative, it can cause problems with the fetus. Sometimes there has to be a transfusion. So it's really a strange blood type. So is she a hybrid? She believes so.
Yeah, I have O negative blood, but I've never had any children, so I didn't have to go through anything. But that's interesting to bring that up. Wow.
Yeah. So if you have Rho negative blood, you might be reptilian or part reptilian or alien, even if it's not the reptilians who are there. That's kind of funny that the Greys were involved and human looking. You know, a lot of people have described these Nordic types or redheads, but that's very strange. And why did he have a coiled snake on his... yeah, that's kind of strange, isn't it? Like he was, well, maybe he was a doctor, you know. Kind of interesting, huh? Was he human?
I don't know, yeah. So, yeah, well, I'm okay with being part reptilian. I don't care. I like who I am.
From my perspective, we're all partly reptilian. Our brainstem is one that has all the characteristics, and actually the Council of Etona said that the brainstem would be the reptilian part of us, the proto-human. And what this means is that we are able to fight to the death or run away. We don't have the empathy that the Greys have, for example, the group mind. We have this. We're quite different, and so that's a part of the hybridization program, is to bring us some kind of a universal empathy, like Jesus was trying to teach. You're supposed to love everybody, don't you understand? You got to feel everybody, and it's like the reptilian part is what allows us to. It's overdone. You need to center yourself between your survival self and your higher and spiritual self, and you don't have to be one or the other. And that was the purpose of making humans. But we are so unique. The whole, all the other species are very, very interested in us because we are such a diverse hybrid, and we have this metagene. Some of us do. Janet probably does, and you probably do, Betsey. You, Kevin, I don't. But anyway, that you have some special abilities to manifest by your thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Well, for what I understand, the metagene is just the ability to manifest. So I've always said I'm a manifestor. I had a guest on. Were you on that show, Kevin? We had Penny Bradley. Anyway, I've done shows with Penny Bradley, and she's part of the secret space program. But she says that the metagene, part of the reasons why some of the extraterrestrials want to keep us repressed is because the metagene allows people who have figured out how to use it, how to instantly create. So there's a delay. Most humans can imagine something, image it, and then they bring it down into physicality through things like writing about it or drawing it, and then maybe doing a model. But Tesla had the metagene, and he could think of something and immediately go, and it was perfect every time. So that's what they're afraid of. If too many humans wake up to the realization they have this metagene and they start creating, there's nothing they can do about it to keep us into this matrix where we're controlled. So that's what I learned about that. But
can I jump in there for a minute?
Yeah, your turn. Go ahead.
Well, I started looking at the differences between humans and apes. The great apes supposedly we evolved from. And apes are not known to develop certain cancers. Humans are unique because we walk upright. And although apes walk on two legs for a short time, they are really, they only, they really don't want to. They're arm swingers in the trees. Gorillas live mainly on the ground but can climb large trees. And it's interesting. We have 32 teeth like gorillas, but the ape jaw is rectangular and has large prominent canine teeth. And the humans don't have a chin, and apes, let's see, we do have a chin and apes do not. And then humans have faces that are vertical in profile due to the large cranium and small jaws, and our noses are narrow and not huge like the apes. And there's just so many differences. Let's see, all the different things. There's just a million different things that are different about humans and apes. And for example, there are many species of apes, yet they can't intermingle with each other and produce offspring. Yet humans come in many different colors, shapes, sizes, and ethnic backgrounds, and blood types, and we can mate with each other, which is really interesting, I think. And apes can't cry, they can't laugh, they can't express emotions like humans. And I don't think you'll ever see an ape on a TV talent show singing. That'll probably never happen. But there's just a lot of different things. Our genetics are totally different. So there's, let's see, there are 4 main ape species, and they have a number of chromosomes. With apes, they all have 24 pairs, and humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes. So that's kind of interesting. And to say, I've never bought that humans were even linked to apes. I think that's incredible to say that. I think that, like Sasha was saying, that we're more related to reptilians than anything. And it's kind of interesting that a lot of humans, I don't know if you know this, but you probably do, because you guys know everything about all this, but a lot of humans are born with tails. Did you know that? Yeah. And so where did that tail come from? Is it reptilian? Or yeah, eventually some of them fall off, and some of them have to be removed.
Well, they cut them off. We've had clients, and they get regressed, and they go, and they're very upset. They go, I had a tail, and my parents cut it off. And they remember on the hypnosis that they had removed. And they're upset. It's like, or I had 6 toes and 6 fingers, and they cut them off. And so there's a lot of, and see, our doctors, we have people that are born that are, hermaphrodites. And they make decisions for these people when they're born. Is this going to be a boy or a girl? And they cut things off. They sew things up. Yeah, it's pretty horrible. Go ahead.
Yeah. If I may, it's like the evidence that you cited is overwhelmingly, and it's quite consistent with what the latest anthropology is, that basically we've been forced by our academics to put things in a Darwinian perspective of a slow evolution building on what it's going to be. And we obviously, once you really examine the evidence, did not evolve from tarsiers and lemurs and apes. We were brought here and breeded on purpose by extraterrestrials, and the apes are totally different. We are somewhat similar, but we are certainly not. What happened is they took all these bones, like of Australopithecines, and they put them together as though they were humanoid. But when you really look at the bones separately, you see that we are absolutely nothing like them. And same with even Homo erectus, or Bigfoot's ancestor. He has totally flat feet. His hands come down to below his knees. Ours only come down to the thighs. The Anunnaki, so they tell us, deliberately took some genetics from Homo erectus, which was Bigfoot's ancestor, which is also a very intelligent species that's here on the planet, is still here for that matter, and as part of adapting us to Earth. So just forget about macroevolution. Yeah, you have microevolution. Things get bigger horns or littler horns or this or that or the other thing. But that's different than a whole genera like we have. We are seated here. That seems overwhelmingly the case.
Yep, that's the case.
Kevin, what would you like to add?
There's something actually I wanted to add. There's something, Janet. There was something you had said about 10 minutes ago about manifesting, about people who have learned how to manifest. I have a very interesting story that I wanted to share with you. The friend who I stayed with when I was at Ozark, because she has all this crazy things happen at her place. Okay. And she had an incident take place 2 days before I went to visit her. And it has a story to do with this CD that she listens to in her car. Okay, this CD is like, it's one of those promotional CDs that they throw into like a beer case, back in the 90s of like, it was like some kind of retro dance music. Okay. And she had this one CD which she listened to all the time in her car. It's completely scratched up. It's like completely, really scratched up. It's a bad case. Anyway, she accidentally broke the CD, right? And then 3 days later, she was going through her CD case. She found a brand new one that she never had before.
Ooh.
Brand new. We're talking about a 1990s promotional CD from like an obscure one that you can't get anywhere. She found another one, brand new in her in her face.
Goodness.
Talk about manifestation. She has no idea.
So she's a major manifester. Well, when we have things like that happen here in Hawaii, we always go, well, the Menahonis did that, right? They bring things and they take things away and they bring it. But it might be people, manifesting, especially in light with where we are in the, alignment with the galactic core. We're from the Kali Yuga to the Sakta Yuga. So we're accelerating and changing. So that'll bring us back to Betsey and all the books she's written. And what else? Yeah, your turn. What would you like to say?
Oh, is it back to me again?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I believe right now that many of us were Atlanteans, and we've come back to get it right and stop destroying the Earth. But I don't think we have really learned our lesson about destroying the Earth. Back in Atlantis, we were highly evolved like we are now, and the great mighty crystal destroyed the planet, started breaking up, and here we are. We've got all these huge Earth changes taking now, and I believe that a lot of the bad Atlanteans, the family of dark and the family of light are here, and there's kind of a spiritual battle going on right now. And what really worries me, and you have to think about that, if reincarnation is true and we do come back to learn lessons, just think that if we continue to destroy the Earth and, the water is toxic, we pollute the water, the oceans, and everything that we're doing, we're going to be the ones coming back and reincarnating. We're the ones that are going to have to deal with the mess that we've made. We've got to clean up our act, or, we're not going to have a planet. And maybe what happened to Mars will happen to us. And it's kind of a lesson for us to think about, that we can destroy our planet the way we continue at this.
It's already happened.
So where are we going to go?
Yeah, where are we going to go? We can't go anywhere else.
Let's say if we did destroy this planet, wouldn't we reincarnate on other planets? But go ahead.
Well, the other thing that I wonder is, why couldn't we reincarnate in the past from this lifetime? Why does it have to be in the future? Why couldn't it be parallel? I find that people have parallel experiences and they have time travel experiences too. So it may just be that you keep reincarnating in the cycle. That's in a way why they call this a prison planet. Some people, because people are trapped in cycling.
We are, and we just don't seem to learn our lessons too well. We're just so stubborn, we just don't want to get it, and I guess we'll just have to come back until we do. recycling, as you said.
Our understanding of time is not, we do not understand time. And actually, Sasha is exactly correct in regards to reincarnating in the past, because I can't remember who I was speaking to, but they talked about actually having a life maybe it was Sherry Wilde. I think it was Sherry Wilde, with an experience she had where she actually transgressed to another simultaneous existence that she has as a multidimensional being, but this person was from the past because she looked in the mirror and saw somebody with old clothes. Remember that story? Remember that story?
I don't think I'm familiar with the concept. It's like the time is just a function of this, human life. We're the one that created the concept of time. But time is simultaneous everywhere all the time, and I have that. Sometimes I have an awareness that I'm in the future, looking back at this time, like this radio show, with great nostalgia, and I'm saying, Kevin, Sasha, and Betsey, remember the time we did this show together? And I go, what was that? It's like, it's shocking, but it's like I'm aware that there's a part of me that's reflecting upon this now, and it's simultaneously existing. Some people might call it crazy, but for me, it's like, no, this is going on.
Have you ever heard of
one explanation?
Sorry, go ahead.
Just really brief. One explanation that Caroline Corey gave me, and also Chris Hardy has the same perspective, is that when you reach the singularity within you, the part of you that connects with the singularity of everything and everywhere, it's like folding a piece of paper so that you're in contact with, you can call it the Akashic records or whatever, but everything is open depending on which way you look, and so that that's where you go. You find what you're aiming at once you're in your singularity, which is that you've centered yourself. You're not being run by any of your sub-personalities, but you're able to center, witness, and transcend.
Wow. Have you heard the theory that we have extensions of ourselves that are coexisting at the same time, or we can kind of, like an amoeba, we kind of split off, our soul kind of splits off, and
that's
maybe
that's exactly what Dr. Sasha is talking about.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And I believe, actually, I just remembered now because I was finishing reading Sherry Wilde's book, The Forgotten Promise. And Da, her Zeta teacher, expressed regarding talking about the 3 lessons that she's supposed to learn, and one of the lessons is we are multidimensional beings. And what he showed her is an image of a stack of onion paper that's like micro thin, with representing all the lives that you are, and then putting a pencil all the way through all of them, and that's who you are. That you are attached to all these lives, and simultaneously happening at the same time, basically.
Right. Yeah,
and
that's kind of interesting.
That's where you get the oneness and the all, the all into that as well, where we are all one.
Yeah, it'd be
Betsy, you've been waiting to say something. Let's hear it, Betsy.
Well, I was just going to say it'd be interesting to think that I have some extension out there that's living on Earth right now that's maybe a male in India. And perhaps sometimes when we have that feeling of deja vu that it's happened before, maybe we're getting telepathic communication from that other part of ourselves. And isn't that interesting to think that we're always being communicated with these other selves, and like some days we feel really depressed, and there's really no reason. Maybe our other self is really depressed, and we're getting that. It's communicating with us.
That's an idea. Yeah, I read the whole series of the Michael Newton Institute books on life between lives, and his information where they regressed about 40,000 people. They progressed them into where you go between lives. very, very interesting set of books, and I highly recommend them. But they said that you might meet your own self sometime. So when I read that, I went, well, I think I did, because I had a lover one time, and I kept going, what is this? What is this? It's not. I'm not going to marry this person, but we were drawn to each other, and I asked questions of, the Akashic record to my higher self or something, and it took a couple days, but the answer came back and said, well, this is you. This is you in a male form, and you guys have found each other of all places on the earth, and you came down in more than one place so you could accelerate the rate of your soul's progression and development. And I went, well, that's it kind of makes sense, because it was just a year-long relationship, and then we were complete, whatever we needed to do, why we needed to reconnect with each other. So and then I read it in that book. I went, wow, maybe that's what happened. So maybe you'll meet your other self somewhere, in the store or something.
Yeah.
You never know.
One of the interesting things, I think it was Penny Bradley was saying, is she has these multiple selves, and one of them was turned into a cyborg, which was just flying freight. It was a Vimana just flying freight around, and she said, sometimes I put my consciousness there, but most of the time it's just on automatic. It's one of my cloned bodies. But she actually can, have these different experiences pretty much at will. Was it Penny, honey?
I think it was Penny. That she has a. They have a bunch of clones apparently. The Secret Space program. You have your primary self, which has all your experiences as a soul. It's got your full memory, so it's like Beethoven, right? So it's got the talents. And one time, people, when they're taken, they're just their consciousness is taken, their primary self, and moved into the clone. So you're saying, well, I'm on Mars or I'm on this other planet, because apparently taking the physical form is kind of deleterious to the form. It has the side effects. So often they'll just take your consciousness, put you on the other planet. You do your job, and then you come back to your bed and you wake up and you're in your bed. But it's like, that was not a dream. What in the world was that? Well, that's because they're actually taking you. So that's what she was saying. She said sometimes she's aware that she's, on the ship, and sometimes she's aware she's on Mars, and sometimes she's aware that she's a human being and she's going about her day here on Earth. So maybe that's what's going on, some kind of variation of that. But I don't know if it's technology based or just what our soul does anyway. It's really hard to make that determination. Somebody else, take the talking stick. Who wants to elaborate on that or go in a different direction?
Well, can I tell you the books that I have? And I see we've only got about 10 more minutes. So
yes,
I've got the new one, which is Deja-vu, which just came out this past month. Mystic Revelations, the Prophecy of Numbers, since I'm into numerology. And then there's Ancient Serpent Gods, which we were just talking about. Mystic Revelations of 7, Prophecies 2016 and beyond, Mystic Revelations of 13. A lot of interesting things about the number 13. Earth Energy, Return to Ancient Wisdom, Communicating with the Other Side. Never Can Say Goodbye, and Angels, Aliens, and Prophecy, which has my own experiences, UFO experiences, and perhaps an encounter.
Wow. So do you do anything else besides write? You got all these books done.
Well, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do a lot of other things.
What was your own encounter? You really dropped that one. What was the encounter?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The first one was when I was 8 months old. My parents and I were on a country road up in northern Idaho, and it was late at night, and they hadn't seen a car or anything on the road for miles. It was kind of a strange night. And all of a sudden, there was this horrendous roar that shook the car. It was like a hand came down and shook the car. I mean, they thought a plane was going to crash on them. It was so frightening. And I was in the back seat in a basket. And my father supposedly pulled over, and my parents got out, and there was nothing in the sky. Well, that was the story they always told me, and that's all they could remember until my uncle told me. He said, well, did your parents tell you about what happened when you were just a baby and about their UFO experience? And I said, yeah, I told him what they had told me. And he says, well, did they tell you that they couldn't account for 2 hours, that they were driving from northern Idaho to Twin Falls? And that's like an 8-hour drive from where they were. They were attending the University of Moscow. And I guess my grandparents and my uncle and everybody, they thought they were in a car accident because my father always knew what time they would get there. So when I asked my parents about that, they didn't know. I mean, that was pretty puzzling. So what happened in those 2 hours? But my mother and I were regressed by Ann Druffel, who has written many books on aliens, the Tujunga Canyon contacts and all. She regressed my mother and I in 1981, 1981-82, separately, and we both told that something very strange happened. In fact, I had said that we were actually beamed up through the car and into the spacecraft. And it was the gray aliens. I described a lot of incredible things that happened. So I think we were examined, and I think we were put back. I remember my parents being slumped over. That's what I said, under hypnosis. And it was like they were asleep when we were put back in the car. And then my father woke up, and he was all upset. My mother was upset. My mother kept thinking that they had taken me. She was just beside herself. And I guess she started having dreams that I had been abducted. So that's kind of really interesting. And my second experience was when I was 7 years old, and I was walking home from school. And I looked up in the sky, and there's a huge silver disc up there. And it's like following me. I felt that it was following me. I mean, the hair on my arms were just standing up. And I was so frightened. I would run a little ways and I'd hide in the bushes. And I didn't know what to do. And I thought, why isn't anybody stopping and looking at this thing hovering above me? And what's really strange is I was so frightened that I remember going completely in the opposite direction. And I went to home. And I knocked on the door, and no one was there.
We're outside. We're outside.
So I don't know what this was all about.
Love and blessings. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Kevin, Sasha, all of our listeners.
Oh, thank you both. Make aloha.
Thank you.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
In breaking news, a visiting Syrian diplomat reported today that their population is evolving rapidly and advancing into a fifth-dimensional consciousness. They are seeking peace with all cosmic cultures, which may mean that the Earth will be asked to join the prestigious Galactic Federation of Light Alliances. Please join Debbie West and Michael Hathaway on Lost Knowledge, Saturdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Studio A, for the latest breaking news on the Star Visitor's peaceful contact and the ongoing project of cleansing the Earth.
Who are you? I am the architect. I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you. Why am I here? You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision, which has led you inexorably here. You haven't answered my question. The Matrix is older than you know. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equation.
Choice. The problem is choice.
Right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Be here Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Private Eye Matrix Revealed with Monique Lessin.
Even the government admits that 9/11 was a conspiracy. But did you know that it was an inside job? That Osama had nothing to do with it? That the Twin Towers were blown apart by a sophisticated arrangement of mini or micro nukes? That Building 7 collapsed 7 hours later because...
Want entertainment designed just for you? Then check out customizable streaming TV from Xfinity. It makes your life simple, easy, awesome.
Xfinity gives you customizable streaming TV options. Enjoy the most free shows anywhere on any device, and even access your streaming apps right on your TV with X1. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today to learn more. Restrictions apply.